Alan, why is it that most scientists do not believe in God?
I think the problem is that for scientists, they're accustomed to forming their beliefs on the basis of what they can observe, what in fact fits within that definition of science, a natural explanation for the natural world. And therefore, because there really isn't a way for science to approach the question of God or not, scientists opt on the side of not, and they move in that direction.
It's such a dichotomy, though, between the general population, very high percentage believe in God, particularly in America, and the science population, which is almost the inverse of that.
Well, it's important that there are many scientists who are, in fact, deeply religious, spiritual people. So it's not really dichotomous. What it is almost a bimodal distribution. That is, that there are people on one end, the lay public, who are very heavily weighted towards people who believe in God, and then scientists who are more heavily weighted towards agnosticism or atheism.
Yeah, I think scientists are spiritual people, many of them, in terms of their morality, but in terms of their core, metaphysical belief, if you will, they really don't ascribe to the higher power or non-physical stuff.
I think it's also important not to overstate what the data are showing. The way the question is asked is, do you believe in God? Do you believe in a God who is, in fact, treating the world as a puppeteer might treat the world and managing all the events going on? Well, then you get into fine details that, in fact, are hard for scientists to separate.
The question, because that skews it very much.
Absolutely.
Some scientists may believe in some first cause beyond,
right,
but not the puppeteer.
Leon Letterman had that great line, before the Big Bang, it's all up for grabs. And it's not a bad explanation.
Yeah. Do you see a difference between biologists and physicists or cosmologists? From my talking to people, I have a sense that biologists are more militant almost in their disbelief in God. And physicists, Leon Letterman example, when they see a Big Bang and have to answer what's before then, they get tongue-tied.
Although, for biologists, the question of life, what is life? When does life begin? Is a very difficult question and a spiritual question in some dimensions. So that's tough. The preponderance of biologists or physical scientists among the evangelical atheists, I think, is pretty split. That is, that those who feel that their science has given them a cause to prove to the world there is no God, it's probably pretty evenly spread out across all of science. And the interesting part is, they're wrong. The question of God, of course, isn't a scientific question. It's not a question science can ask or answer.
That being the case, is the dialogue that people talk about between science and religion, is that at all worthwhile?
A dialogue between science and religion is worthwhile. A debate between science and religion is not. It's very important.
What's the difference?
The difference is that in a debate, you're taking a position that says the world comes about this way, and I can bring to bear a large amount of empirical evidence, observable, reproducible, etc. That's science. And then the other side, intelligent design, let's take the case of evolution. Intelligent design says, no, it isn't like that. And because you can't explain some little piece, therefore it means that there's a supernatural being that in fact has started and is guiding the entire process. It's pitting one point of view against each other when in fact they exist on parallel planes. That is, that they're asking different questions or can ask different questions.
And never intersect?
I don't see the intersection. I have to say that I have spoken to many scientists who are deeply religious, and they are fully able to separate those dimensions of their world because they understand the difference between a natural explanation for a natural event and then a spiritual explanation for things that are in another world.
Now, some scientists would say that even a dialogue gives religion too much credit, and that if we scientists even dialogue with religion, then that puts them on an equal footing, and therefore communicates the wrong thing to the general public.
So this is going to sound like a semantic, but again, it's the difference between dialogue and debate. Having a conversation, engaging with people of religious persuasion. I do this all the time. I meet with rabbis and clergy from other religions and talk about the difference between science and religion and the limits of each. That's what a dialogue is. That's a conversation that goes each way. A debate is a monologue. It's just two monologues going on at the same time. That is, it's not really a true communication. You're not trying to find common ground. You're not trying to find what the limits are.
But some scientists say it is wrong to even find common ground, because there is no common ground, and it's just giving opportunity for irrationality to be given credibility.
You know, you could say if that's the biggest irrationality in the world today, so be it. I could live with it. The world is not quite as cut and dry as many scientists or many lay people would like it to be. A purpose of science is to explain the world as we come to understand more and more about the world. It's an incremental, accumulative process. So you can't say, you know, today I've got this answer and that's the only answer that I'm going to tolerate today, or the only way of looking at the world. I think those scientists who say there's no place for religion in life are making a very big mistake, because they're wrong. Religion has persisted for thousands and thousands of years, as long as we know about human history. Maybe there's something to it. It's filling at least a need for people. And why do scientists have that level of hubris to say, not for us, only for you?
Well, I think part of the reason is that religion has caused a great deal of the problems in the world that sometimes people don't like to talk about.
You know, religion has caused problems at times. Religion has caused great happiness and great contentment at times. And so in the same way,
some scientists would say the former, the problems are real, the contentment is artificial.
Really, it depends on where you sit. If you're the content person, it's not so artificial.